we'll close agenda item 8, move to agenda item 9, which is consideration of adoption of bill number 470, CBD monument signs to amend municipal code sections 1-10-8 design standards and 9-10-8C sign regulations for the CR3 district. Mr. Seacrest, is this one yours?
It is. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, before I give the overview on this request, I do want to point out that at the beginning of the meeting, I handed out a revised ordinance. And I just want to briefly explain. There's a minor change in it. As I was reviewing the materials for council meeting, I discovered that there was a sentence left out. An important sentence. If you turn to page 4 of that revised ordinance, second paragraph, where it reads, signs must be monument and less than 48 inches in height with a copy face not to exceed 20 square feet. That sentence doesn't appear in the draft that got uploaded to council, but that's exactly what the design standards for the downtown central business district says currently. And thus, we're going to amend that. Let me give you the simplified version, I guess, of what Maverick Inc. is asking for here and why. I understand the staff memos might be a little confusing. Basically, Maverick has wanted to have a new and improved monument sign out in front of their facility for some time. They want it taller, they want larger in terms of more copy area on the sign, and they want that monument to be backlit. In other words, it'll be an internally illuminated box or cabinet sign. The city's regulations have prevented all three of those things for some time. Chapter 10, the sign chapter in the Mesquite Municipal Code, the section that deals with the CR3 zone or the Central Business District, actually allows a 10-foot high monument and up to 60 square feet of copy area. They want a 10-foot high monument and only 50 square feet. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that we also have design standards that were adopted by the city or the Central Business District at the time the redevelopment district was created. And those design standards limit the height of a monument in the CBD to 4 feet. And they limit the copy area or the area of the sign to 20 square feet. That's the section that I just pointed out to you on this revised ordinance that needs to be changed. So that's the first part of it, dealing with the height and the size. If we eliminate that section of the design standards in the redevelopment district, then we just go back to the sign section in the Mesquite Municipal Code, and it would allow the size they're asking for. They want this monument to be backlit. In other words, it's an illuminated sign box or sign cabinet. So you'll have like a Lexan front with fluorescent tubes on the inside that illuminate the signage. Again, the design standards that were adopted with the redevelopment district have for years prohibited any kind of backlighting with signs in the CBD. We changed that last August when we looked at doing community event signs. We made some changes that would allow individual letters to be backlit or internally illuminated letters and symbols, but you still couldn't have the internally illuminated box or cabinet signs. So they made this request. We took it to the Architectural Review Committee. We discussed the idea of these box or cabinet signs. I think the Architectural Review Committee was really together in the idea that they just didn't want them on buildings. They don't care if they're on monument signs, but they're hard to design on a building and make it look like it belongs. It always looks like it's tacked on afterwards, much brighter than everything else. Usually not the same materials and colors as the original building. And so they made a recommendation that said, we think it's a good idea on these monument signs. We just still don't want them on the front of buildings as wall signs or flat signs. So you have kind of a double recommendation in this draft ordinance. Chapter 10 in the sign chapter, we say that you can have an illuminated box or cabinet sign on a monument, but you can't have it on the face of the building. And one more thing Maverick was asking for, there's a separation requirement between monument signs right now, 250 feet. They wanted an exception to that says unless there's a street in between the signs, or the city council grants a conditional use permit to have them closer. And we thought that was a reasonable idea, and so we recommended including that language. The other thing they suggested was in the design standards, they thought the monuments ought to reflect the character of the building in terms of color, materials, and so we added a language in the design standards that does that. The owner of Maverick couldn't be here tonight. He did inform me that he was going to have someone from Young Electric Sign Company be here. But they're on board with the changes. They're the ones who requested it. They think the few modifications we made are, make the code better, so I think they're in general agreement. And with that, I recommend the City Council, acting as the redevelopment agency board, open the public hearing for comment and adopt Bill 470 as ordinance 470.
Thank you, Mr. Seacrest. In choosing who gets approved, are we stepping into a freedom of speech issue here?
Yes, I would recommend that it be the same for everyone. I mean, that's what it needs to be.
So if they follow the regulations, they get the sign? Okay. That was just my concern. If we're going to be deciding as a council, then we're going to be picking and choosing who gets a sign, and I don't know if we want to get into that.
Yeah. Again, I apologize that that memo was a little confusing. The first part deals with what Maverick was asking for. The second part deals with what we're recommending. What they asked for is to leave that language in that allows the council to make all these exceptions. And our recommendation was just leave it the way it is. They apply for a permit, staff approves it, if it meets the standards, or it's reviewed by architectural review, without having to have them go to council. It just seemed an unnecessary delay to do that.
Okay. That would be fine then. And then we do have a motion on the floor to, Councilman Gus Davison, do you want to redo that motion, or just for clarification purposes?
Okay, it's quite simple, but I move that we adopt bill number 470 as ordinance number 470 with all staff recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. We'll call for the vote. Councilman Withelder?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you.